People who are the best at influencing and selling have a secret. I've spent 20 years studying this in my marketing career, and I've seen firsthand how using these secret methods is the quickest way to be successful in almost any career path or any business. If you want to sell, persuade, and get people to do what you want, these are the 5 secret methods you need to know. The first method is called flip the status, and it's the reason an inferior product can beat a better one. You don't need to have the best product to make the most money. You need something far simpler instead. In the early 2000s, a company called Tassimo entered the coffee pod market with what should have been an unbeatable value proposition. Their tagline was, "The barcode brews it better." They had actual technology built in, a barcode on every pod that told the machine exactly how to brew it. Perfect temperature, perfect pressure, perfect every time. It was objectively more advanced than anything else on the market. On paper, Tassimo should have won. But then Nespresso showed up. No barcode, no real technical advantage, but they had George Clooney in a sleek European kitchen, a boutique retail experience where you sampled pods like wine, and a design language that looked nothing like a kitchen appliance. Tassimo had, objectively, a better product, but Nespresso had a better story about who you were for choosing it. Nespresso won because they took something people assumed was basically a cheap convenience product and reframed it as a mark of taste. They didn't change the coffee. They changed the identity of the person drinking it. That's how you flip the status. You find the part of your category that people quietly look down on, the part that maybe feels cheap or boring or even embarrassing, and you flip it into a symbol of sophistication. Nespresso didn't fight the perception that coffee pods were lesser. They just made their version feel like it belonged in a different conversation entirely, one with better lighting and a more interesting guest list. So look at your own category and ask, what do people in this space secretly feel a little embarrassed about? That could be your opening. Nespresso did not invent good coffee. They just invented a reason to feel good about how you make it. The second method is called hijack the myth. The brain doesn't adopt new ideas, it adopts new versions of the ones it already has. In the 1960s, Marlboro needed to sell cigarettes in a market that was getting so much harder to advertise in. Regulations were tightening, the health conversation was starting, or it was well underway almost. You couldn't just say, buy our cigarettes. You had to make someone feel something before the rules caught up with you. So they did not invent a character, they borrowed one. The American cowboy had been living in the cultural imagination for over a century. Rugged, self-reliant, stoic, uncompromising, defined by the open frontier and nobody telling him what to do. That mythology was already running in millions of American minds. Marlboro just attached its brand to it by showing it. A man on a horse, wide open sky. That's all it took. This myth is so strong it still sells today. Look at the popularity of the Yellowstone franchise. The result here wasn't just a successful campaign. Over time, Marlboro stopped being about cigarettes and really became shorthand for an identity. People were not buying a product, they were declaring something about themselves. The mythology did all the heavy lifting because it was already installed. Marlboro just moved in. This is what hijacking the myth means in practice. Your brain is lazy in the best possible way. It prefers things it already recognizes. So when a brand attaches itself to an existing myth, an existing archetype, an existing cultural story, it doesn't feel like an intrusion. It feels familiar. It feels like it belongs. The imagination doesn't resist it because it's not new. It's already there. It's just a new version of something that was already there. So remember, you don't need to create a new story. You need to find the story your audience is already telling themselves about who they are and show them that your brand belongs in it. Ask yourself, what myth is already running in my customer's mind? Not what do I want them to believe, what do they already believe? Start there. Attaching to an existing myth works when the myth already exists, but what if your category doesn't have one? You build it yourself by showing people something they didn't know was there. The third method is called open the hidden door, and it works when you don't have an existing myth to attach to. Most brands spend millions trying to get people to care, but this company did it for free with a move almost nobody copies. In 2014, Blue Bottle Coffee was a single cafe in San Francisco, but within what felt like months, everyone had heard of them. Not because of a massive ad campaign, because they published a video course on how to brew the perfect cup of coffee. Most brands would never and have never done this. Why teach people something that has nothing to do with buying your product right now? But Blue Bottle understood something much deeper. They were not teaching coffee. They were opening a door to a world most people didn't know existed. And when you walk someone through a hidden door, something happens to them. They become someone new on the other side because of you. Suddenly, a person who used to order whatever was on the menu is now asking about the roast date. They're not just drinking coffee anymore. They are literate in coffee. And that literacy changes how they see themselves in every conversation where coffee comes up. They have something to contribute now, something to share, something that makes them more interesting. Blue Bottle gave them that. So of course, they became loyal to Blue Bottle. This is the hidden door method. You're not selling a product. You're selling entry into a world with its own language, its own standards, its own hierarchy of taste. Craft beer does this. Specialty food markets do this. High-end audio equipment does this. Once you're in, the generic version stops being an option at all because it's beneath who you've become. The hidden door works because it changes your customer's self-image. People will do almost anything to protect and reinforce who they believe they are. So ask yourself, what does your industry know that most people don't? What would make someone feel smarter, more sophisticated, or more in the know for learning it? That's your hidden door. Find it, open it, and walk your customer through. Opening the door gets people in, but the brands that win long-term don't just give people a new world to belong to, they give them a reason to come back to it every single day. Fourth method is called build the ritual. Starbucks doesn't win because they have better coffee. They win because of this method. Think about the last time you walked into a Starbucks. Someone asked your name, it got written on the cup, you waited, you heard your name called, you picked it up. Same sequence, every Starbucks, every city, every country. It feels like just getting coffee, but something intentional is happening underneath that most brands never figure out. Patagonia does the same thing, but differently. A friend once said to me, when a guy wears Patagonia, he's telling the world he's husband material. Now, that's maybe a strange thing to say about a jacket, right? But every design decision, every repair program that says we'd rather fix this than sell you a new one, was all engineered to make the person wearing it feel like they belong to something bigger than a transaction. A name handwritten on a cup with a smiley face and a jacket with a moral code have nothing in common on the surface, but they're doing the same thing underneath. They turned a small, forgettable moment into a small, memorable ceremony. And that ceremony is why you keep people coming back. The ritual is how you live in the imagination without being intrusive. You are not interrupting someone's day. You're becoming part of it. A moment they even look forward to, a signal they send about themselves, a sequence that triggers familiarity and warmth every single time it plays out. When Starbucks moves away from this, when the name goes unwritten or the moment feels rushed, you feel it. Maybe not consciously, but you feel it, because the ritual was the product. So look at your customer's day and find the dull moment, the checkout, the onboarding email, the confirmation page, the delivery notification. Every one of those is a missed ceremony. Just pick one and make it feel like something. Not necessarily grand or expensive, just personal, repeatable, theirs. That's how you go from being remembered to being reached for. The ritual keeps you present in someone's life, but the most powerful thing a brand can do isn't just show up in someone's routine. So the last method is called give them a superpower, and it's the reason certain brands earn loyalty and devotion from their customers. The brands people are the most loyal to aren't necessarily the ones they like the most. They're the ones who made them believe something new about themselves. Before Stripe existed, accepting payments online was a nightmare. You needed a merchant services account. You needed approval. There was a back and forth with banks. There were hardware requirements, contracts to sign, and weeks of waiting for approval. If you were a small business or an independent developer with an idea, the system was basically telling you, this is not for you. That's for big companies. Wait until you're bigger. Then Stripe launched with a few lines of code and this implicit message. You can build now. No approval, no waiting, no middlemen. The same capability that used to require an enterprise contract was now available to anyone with a laptop. And something happened to the people who used it. I was one of them. They didn't just feel like they had a new tool. They felt like a different kind of person, nimble, fast, a builder, rather than someone waiting for permission to build. Twilio did the same thing with phone and messaging infrastructure. What used to require negotiating with a telecom carrier and buying hardware, Twilio turned into something you just added to your project like any other feature. Again, the capability didn't just solve a problem. It expanded what people believed was possible about themselves. All four methods we talked about before this one work by changing how someone sees themselves. The status reversal makes them feel more sophisticated. The myth hijack makes them feel part of a bigger story. The hidden door makes them feel more literate. The ritual makes them feel feel like they belong. But the superpower method does something none of those do. It makes them feel more capable than they thought they were. And that is the deepest place you can live in someone's imagination, because it's not about your brand anymore. It's about who they become because of it. So ask yourself the most important question in this entire framework. What could my customer do after finding me that they genuinely believed they could not do before? What power do I give them that they didn't even think was available to them? Find that answer, and you're not selling a product anymore. You are really selling a new version of who they are, and nobody casually walks away from that. But knowing this psychology is going to feel a little useless if you don't have the skills to actually execute it. So watch this next video where I break down the exact roadmap I would follow from zero to build a marketing career that actually makes you money.